Hello and welcome to another Gain Mindshare Actionable Intelligence Training. If you want to download this program, head on over to the membership site and look at the recordings section. If you're not a member of the Gain Mindshare content program, head on over to gainmindshare.com/AEBC monthly. Again, that's gainmindshare.com/AEBC monthly. And with that, thank you, and I hope that you will find this recording helpful to you in building your business.
In front of an audience, you're looking to get your product or service, or even your client's product or service, in front of people. And so without further ado, Robert, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure to be here again.
Well, Robert, last time I know that you kind of had this, you kind of went through what one would do if, let's say that I know I've got a couple of friends on here, they've got, they're marketers, you know, they might want to be doing, you know, their own conference. Some folks have, you know, ideas and books, but let's just say that the folks who are on this call, they want to do a conference in their local area, and they want to do a marketing conference, and they're looking to, let's say, you know, work with sponsors. And so if you were doing that, maybe we can start from that point, and then you just kind of go from there.
Okay, sure. Not exactly how I had it in my notes, but anyway, okay. I'm fine. You know, this is fine. So that was kind of like the third or fourth point, but I know how to, you know, be flexible, roll with it. So if you kind of wanted to peek into my head, so to speak, when I decide, okay, I'm going to do an event or a conference or workshop, whatever, what I do is, and you guys definitely want to write this down. Don't try to trust this to memory because you'll forget it. I've been doing this particular strategy for 15 years, so, you know, obviously I'm going to remember it. But what you want to do, and there's two ways to do it. You can get a yellow page. The yellow pages, the phone book, if you're kind of old school, or you can use Google. You know, I'm 39, so I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not too old, not too young. I got a phone book right here under my desk. So, you know, you want to have either a phone book or you want to use Google. And here's what you want to do. Whatever your event is about, whatever your seminar, and typically they are based on whatever business you're in. That's what most people have seminars about. So look at what it is you do, again, what the event is about. Then what you want to do is find out when you offer your services or your products to people, whatever industry you're in, there's other things that they need or that they want to buy. The way we put it is, where do people need to go before they do business with you? What else do they know? What else do they need? Excuse me. While, you know, you're servicing them or selling their product, and then what else do they need, or where do they go after they've bought from you? So I'll repeat that. What do people need before they do business with you? Where do they go, or what else do they need while they're doing business with you? And then after they bought from you, is there anything else or anywhere else that they need to go? So once you identify that, that gives you a short list of familiar or similar companies that you should approach. One of the things with sponsorships is people think, okay, well, I want this particular sponsor, I want this particular sponsor, I want that kind of sponsor. And there's no synergy. There's no compatibility between your company and the sponsor that you want. So what you've just done with this strategy is you've streamlined companies that are perfect fit for you. And I'll use myself as an example again. I'm in marketing PR. So before someone hires me, what do they need? They need a business. Okay, if you're going to start a business, there's certain things you need to have and certain places you need to go. If you incorporate your business, then, you know, there's a corporation lawyers, there's services, there's 1-800-INCORPORATE. You can do it yourself through the state that you live in, or you can use your local county recorder, county clerk office if you're going to use a assumed business name. So you have to go there first before you can hire me to help you. Then if you're hiring me to do PR for you, you may say, okay, well, I want some other type of advertising. I want to do radio. I want to do PPC online. I want to do some other things. So I go to other companies. I go to lawyers. I'll go to a law firm. I'll go to a logo designer. I'll go to these other type of businesses. And those become potential sponsors because we have similar clientele, but we're not competing. But my demographic customer is the same as theirs. And so that's where I begin the potential sponsors. So when I actually start from square one, I get a sheet of paper. I told you I'm kind of in the middle. I write. I don't do everything on the computer. I'll get a sheet of paper and I'll just write all this stuff down. So I'll get a list of potential sponsors. So that's where I start. You may have 20, 30, 40, 50 potential sponsors to start. But what you'll see when you see that list is there's some synergy there. You can approach. Let me back up and finish part 3 of that. Where do they go after they've done business with me? One of the places I approach is like a bank, because if you're in business, you have a business banking account. So I'll approach a bank, and to get them to sponsor what I'm doing. And then once you identify potential sponsors, now it's just a matter of approaching them and saying, who you are. You're putting on an event. You're expecting, 200 to 400 small business owners who make $500,000 to $5 million, or who, do $100,000 to $250,000, or companies that do over $10 million. You want to give them a demographic, because if it's their sweet spot, if it's the core audience that they're wanting to go after, you're probably 80 to 90% of your way of getting a sponsor, a check. So you want to identify, 1, the number of people you're expecting, 2, a little bit about the attendees, so that as a potential sponsor, they know, the eyeballs that are going to be seeing them. So then you're kind of working with the sponsorship director or the marketing director, whatever the title is, to kind of fine-tune and get them on board. But this particular strategy, 1, identifies kind of your hit list, and then 2, gives you a reason to call or send an email or contact a particular company to approach for a sponsorship. So now they're either going to say, 1 or 2 things. The bottom line is they can either say yes, they'll do it, or no. Sometimes there's some middle ground, some maybe, some going back and forth. You might catch them on a bad cycle where they only do sponsorships at the end of the year or the beginning of the year or the summer, depending on when it is. So you have to play with that. But sponsorships, a lot of companies are going to that model a lot more than just traditional advertising. The traditional advertisers are not really getting a good ROI on that. So they like the idea of being connected with events. And so if you can put them in front of their core clientele, you've done all the heavy lifting, you put the event together, you secured the venue, you did everything, and all they have to do is put up a banner or send you a logo to put on your website, or print up some tickets to have their logo on it. You've done the hard work. All they have to do is just give you a check. So what you want to do there is find out what their budget is once you've identified that you guys have the right client base, target audience. Then you want to figure out, okay, what is their budget? What is their budget for something like that? So I hope Charles, was that like too much, or I need to kind of explain something a little further, or kind of help me out?
No, I think you did. One thing that I was wondering, is, do you put the event? Would you put the event together? In other words, let's say that you're going to bring in, a guy you're going to bring in, let's say a big name speaker. Do you go to that speaker, and do you go and you try to get them first, then go to your sponsors, or do you go to the sponsors with the event, and then kind of put the thing together, and then go to the big name speaker?
I get the, I go after the sponsor first, and the reason I do it is because at the end of the day, if you're doing an event and you know there's going to be, you know, several hundred or 7,000 people, and I've been in them both. I've been in events where, you know, there was, what is it, the Allstate Arena here in Chicago. There's 35,000 people there, all the way to, you know, there's a small group, maybe there's 60 people. That really it boils down to this, and I had one of my business mentors tell me, this is his story, it's not mine, but he had a room of 13 people. It was an event of 13 people in the Chicago area, and he got one of the largest banks in the Midwest to put up, I know it was 6 figures, to sponsor his event. And you say, why would a bank put up 6 figures to cover this trainer's event for 13? This is all who were there. It was 13 attendees. The reason they did that, because the 13 attendees had a net worth of $20 million or more.
Right.
So it's not so much where you need the big numbers to get the sponsor. It's if you can put their ideal, their perfect prospect in front of them. So if you were Bank A, and I told you I have, you know, 13 billionaires or guys worth $20 million, I'm doing a mastermind, closed meeting, you know, here's how long we're going to meet, here's, you know, more about the event. You know, you're going to get some attention to put that caliber of people in the room. And again, I only say that because I don't want you to think, okay, well, I need 300 or 1,000 people or whatever. Somebody will be sharing that story. So what I do is I'll get a sponsor. I'll go after sponsor about it. If you say you're going to put, you know, 200 to 500 people that does that, or whether you can do it some other kind of way, really doesn't matter to the sponsor. They're looking at, okay, what you said you're going to deliver and what you said that they'll get. So if you can say you can get a certain amount of people there and they will agree to that, then you can always go to the speaker, you know, and if you get a sponsorship check, you can always go to the, you know, your list of speakers, and it's always great to have a list of your top 5 speakers, and I'll tell you why. You want the top 5 that you want to speak. And the reason you do that is because most of the top speakers they're busy, they're booked. So if you come to them and say, okay, we want you to speak on this particular date, they may not be available. So if you're banking everything on just that one name, you know, there's a chance you may not get them, you know, unless you play around with dates and some other things. So I always just start with, you know, top 5. If I can't get, you know, speaker number 1, here's speaker number 2, and they're all just as good. So that way, you know, it still works out for you. You're able to put your event on when you want to put it on. The sponsors, again, you know, unless the guy or girl speaker is just too controversial, you know, they won't care because they're just looking at, okay, here's a marketing opportunity for us that builds rapport, that establishes, you know, credibility in front of people that we want to do business with. So that's just how I do it.
Right. Okay, so now you alluded to, you know, 3 ways that we could be growing our business, and so I'm interested in your take on this in light of what you're talking about.
Okay, the 3 ways, it's just real simple. It doesn't matter what type of business you're in. They're just fundamentals and principles that apply to everybody. One is you can get new customers and new clients, and that tends to be what everybody focuses most of their time on. 2 is to increase the average transaction or order, and I'll kind of explain on that in a little bit. And then the 3rd is to increase the frequency at which people buy from you. So, you know, you want to get new customers and new clients. You want to get them to spend more when they do buy from you. And then you want to increase the amount of transactions that they do with you. You know, like I said, most people tend to focus on 80% of their time trying to always get new clients in the door, when an easier strategy, an easier way to, get the low-hanging dollars, low-hanging fruit. It's just to go to the people who are already doing business with you and offer them something else. In my own case, this is kind of how I've evolved. And if you guys ever gone to my website, championmediaworldwide.com, the first thing you'll see is some of the I won 3 awards for the top 100 private companies. I've won that award 3 times. And this is the foundation, the foundational strategy that I use is once I have a client in place, let's say they hired me to do PR. Okay, they're already a client for that. So the way I increase the average transaction is I'll offer additional services. I'll ask them if they speak. They say, most of them do. Okay, would you like to get on this stage? Would you like to get this conference or this seminar or put on your own events? Or, again, most of them want to do that. So there's a fee. I just add it for that. It has nothing to do with the original reason they hired me. So that's, again, I've just increased the average fee that I'm paid just by adding that. The other thing I do is I went from 12-month contracts to now maybe it's 3, maybe it's 6 months. Before you could pay me, retain my firm for $10,000 for the year. Okay, now it might be $10,000 for 6 months. So now when you renew, that's another $10,000. See, that fills out the third way to grow your business is to get people to buy from you more often. And if you're, if you're speaking, what you do is if you're doing a speaking engagement, then you get them to lock you in for 2 or 3 other speaking engagements, down the road. That accomplishes the same thing. And it's like most people aren't trained in that way of thinking. We're trained, okay, I got this client, we provide a service, now let me hurry and try to get another client. Very few people take the time and think of, okay, how can I maximize the revenue from the people I'm already serving? And I found that's a whole lot easier than to try to get someone go from who's never heard of you to being introduced to you, to maybe trusting you, you building rapport, them getting to know you, you following up weeks, months, years, however long it takes till they decide to buy. That's a lot harder, it takes longer, and it takes more money than if you can find something that you can offer to an existing client. And another secret to that strategy is even if it's not anything you can do, you can outsource that. You can partner. You can find somebody who can fulfill that, but you just offer it. Another case in point, we offer social media. I don't do any social media. I just have a partner who does it. But since that's the day and age we live in, a lot of clients come to me and say, okay, well, I want to do this with Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. So, I'm not going to leave, money on the table and say, okay, well, we don't offer that. We'll offer that, but then I outsource that to a team, a company who actually does the fulfillment. So that's something you guys might want to keep in mind. If you're very limited in what you can do skill-wise, you can find people who can offer that and then partner with them.
Right. Okay. So really, so even though you're doing PR, you're really kind of stretching back. Well, you're just doing the client once, but obviously, you're also doing internet marketing. You're also doing, traditional marketing. So you're really stretching over into all these other categories just based on what the client wants.
Yeah, and you find that out by by asking. And I want to share this too. It doesn't matter because again, the people listening are in different industries. This worked with there's a ministry. There's a ministry, and then it's a publishing house, and they put out books and education information on the kingdom, the kingdom of God. So I'll show you how this works for anything. What we were able to do is, one, we started out with the PR, and we published articles on, what the kingdom of God is, Jesus Christ and the kingdom. So we published that. That was the PR side of it. Then we moved into online marketing. It was email marketing. There was, some online publicity. So I found that out, when I work with them to do the PR. And then when you're meeting with them once a week, once every 2 weeks, however often you meet, in most cases they have, other things that they want to do. And, this is through the relationship as you talk to them that they have these other needs. So that's kind of what I did. I would talk to someone and they'd say, okay, well, I have a book coming out, and okay, here's the PR campaign we're gonna lay out for you. Then through the course of that, I come to find out they're interested in some TV advertising. I had a recent client in Nashville that did that. He was, had a $4,000 a month TV advertising budget that we took over for him. But he didn't come to me for that. He wanted PR for the book. And then, as we delivered for him and he saw the value, and then we gave him some ideas with the TV advertising, we brought that in. So that's kind of how it expands. It always expands with, getting to know what your client's objectives are and what they're trying to accomplish. And then if you have something in place to offer them, then you offer that to them. If you can't help them, then you don't offer it. But if you feel you can't help them, I feel it's, that you're obligated to just let them know about it.
Right. Okay. Now you have something here that I think is interesting. You said, and everybody's probably going to be interested in this. How do you reach Fortune 500 company decision makers by email? So, yeah. So, how does one do that?
Okay. Several ways to do it. And they all vary depending on your personality, your, if you want to spend money, you can buy a list. There's a company called RSA List, and it has nothing to do with me. That I don't know what the RSA stands for, but they're a company that I've bought lists from before. And they sell, the email addresses, the contact information for every Fortune 500 company. So I think it's around maybe $200 or $300. So that's an option. If you guys just say, hey, I want it, I don't want to do any research, I just want the list. There's an option. You can just purchase it. You can also go to hoovers.com, and what they'll give you is the phone number and the fax number to every Fortune 500 company or large private company. It doesn't have to be a Fortune 500. So you'll get the phone number or the fax number, and that's a way to reaching out and calling and finding out who the right person is, that way. And I think you can purchase from Hoovers too. They offer a subscription. Then you can also use LinkedIn. That's, again, kind of the new thing, the place where we live. You can use LinkedIn and Facebook to find who these decision makers are. I still, again, I purchased my list, but I like Hoovers, and I also like another website. It's called lead411.com, and you can do a free service. You can sign up for $29 a month, and there's another plan, I think, for $50 a month, and they'll give you the email addresses. So again, like I said, if you, depending on your budget and how much time you want to put into it, the RSA list, they just send you everything. You have everything in the file. The Lead 411, you have to log in, and there's only so much information you get. That's why the price is only either free or $29 a month. There's just more work required to get the same information. But if you don't mind, doing the legwork and the research, or if you have somebody who can do it for you, I actually recommend Lead 411. That's, it's there, but you just have to do a little bit more of the research yourself. And again, LinkedIn is another idea. And the key is remembering when you contact them what the message is going to be. And I'll kind of jump ahead. I have a sample. One of the bullet points was a get acquainted email that I call that has a 90% success rate. This is the email that I email to the people I want to do business with. If I can't find an email, I'll fax it to them. I even have a telephone script, voicemail script that's kind of based on an email. But I'll send this email to, if you email me, if you're on this call and you email Champion Media USA, that's all together, Champion Media USA @gmail.com, and let me know, you're on the call and you wanted the get acquainted email, and I'll actually send you the email that I use, so that, again, it has a 90% success rate. And let me explain 90% success rate. That doesn't mean 90% of the people who get it are going to write you a check and sponsor whatever you're trying to do. The success rate is they get it, they read it, and they respond to it, and 90% of the times it's favorable to you, that you can move on to the next step with them. That's the whole purpose of the email. It's not trying to sell them, not trying to get them to buy from you, not trying to do any of that stuff. It's to get them to go from, okay, who's this strange guy or person emailing me that I don't know, don't recognize, to where the barriers come down and they allow you to move on to step 2 of you trying to eventually get them to sponsor your event. So that's where that comes in. And I kind of took it. I was taught this by somebody, and I kind of tweaked it so that it applies to what I'm doing. And you guys can do the same thing, especially if you're going to use it for sponsorships. You'll definitely get a response for that, because that's what I tweaked it to do. So, Charles, I didn't mean to jump ahead, but I know that's kind of was in my bullet point.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and everybody says thank you too. Yeah, so no, that's awesome. Okay, well, you have a pointer here, and it says you've got a strategy for getting national publicity and getting sponsors to call us. Now, okay, so those two go together. So how do we undertake this?
Sure. And the reason, let me give you guys, before I tell you that, why you want that in place. It's much easier, and you guys are in business, and I'm sure you found, it's much easier to sell or get someone to buy when they've called you and sought you out versus you doing the cold calling, you sending the cold letter, you following up. I don't know what the numbers are, but every sales study that I've read, they confirm that the sales close, the closing goes up higher when someone calls you. Mm-hmm. So that the same thing applies here. If you can get a potential sponsor to call you and seek you out, that gives you more leverage. It changes the game, so to speak. It changes your posture. From you being, doing the chasing to you have something of interest to them. So PR does that. One thing publicity does in our culture is just consumed with the news and the media, and it gives you a certain level of influence and a certain level of credibility, deserved or not. It's just if you were in a particular publication or on a particular show, you were seen in a much higher light, just in the eyes of, again, we've been trained and programmed to just think that about people. So you can use that same mindset for what you're trying to do. So that's why you want national publicity, because when a potential sponsor sees that, it just raises your profile in their eyes. And the two quick ways I know to do it is, one, you can go to the website of just about any major national talk show and news program that you want to be on. You can go to the Oprah, the OWN network, her website. You can go to ABC News. You can go to Dr. Phil. You can go to Rachel Ray. You can go to Ellen DeGeneres. You can go to Fox. You can go and pick any one of the national TV talk shows. Click on Be on the Show. It really is this simple. Click on Be on the Show, and you'll see a list of 20, 30, 40 shows that they're working on that they need experts or guests for. So when you go to the show and you figure out, okay, here's this particular topic fits my expertise, and then you fill it out right online, and after you've uploaded your information, you submit it, and then if there's a fit, one of the producers will call you back. I think out of the 7 or 8 national TV talk shows that I've personally been asked to be on, that's Steve Harvey, that's Oprah, that's Dr. Phil, came this way because, one, I found something that I knew they were going to cover. That's why it's on the website. Be on the show, so we know they're going to cover these topics. So that's one way to do it, is to just tie your business into something that they are already looking for. You're not trying to twist their arm and not trying to get them to do something. They are already looking for this. I did this with a client this week. She was on Good Morning America yesterday. Okay, well, she invented a shark repellent wetsuit. So there were shows that were looking for women inventors. All this week on cable was Shark Week, so that was another angle. Mm-hmm. So that's one of my core strategies, is just to find out and stay on top of what the top media outlets are looking for, and then you plug yourself into that. The equivalent for print, for like magazines that you want to be in, they do the same thing, but you're not going to be on the show on their site. What you'll see if you go to, usatoday.com or Newsweek or Time or Forbes, is they put out what's called a media kit, and you can find that on the website. And inside the media kit is an editorial calendar, and all the editorial calendar is it shows you the stories that they're working on for the entire year, each month. So if you go to Fortune magazine and you look at the editorial calendar, you can see what the magazine is going to be about for September, October, November, December. You can see it for the entire year. So what you want to do is find out the topics, the stories, the news that they're covering that fit your expertise. And so when you reach out to the editor and all that's right there on the site, that's an opportunity for you to get national publicity. And so what I've done is I kind of merge the two. Whenever I get national publicity and I know I have an event, or I know I have something coming up where I want to sponsor, that becomes the slant or the angle of the interview that I give, if that makes sense. So I have an event coming up. So any media that comes up, I'll talk about that. I'll mention there's opportunities for sponsors. I'll talk about the types of people who are going to be in the event. Now remember, if you go back to what I said early on, the more you can tell the sponsor and hit their ideal target audience, on the head, so to speak, and really identify them, the better your chances of getting a check for your event. So I'll put that in an article. I'll put that on if I'm doing a radio interview or a TV interview in the city, I'll mention that. I'm not going to keep that secret. That's what's going to get the sponsors. So I'll tell them, hey, we're going to have 60 people who just started a business. It's for startups only. They're new business owners. There's a lot of stuff that they need. There's a lot of information that they don't know that they just need to have if they're going to be successful. That's who this event is for. So now the people who read that article, if their clients or if they want more people who just started in business, and I can name a truckload of types of companies who would be interested in people who just started a business. So now what that does is, A, it gives me the credibility because I'm in the media saying it. The media is reporting this. B, when they hear the interview or they see the article and they want to be a part of sponsoring that or being a part of the event, now they call me because they know about it. I don't have to do any hard selling and telling them I'm legit, telling them I'm for real. The media has done that. The fact that I was in the media is already done the hard work for me. And so that's how you use national publicity, or even local in your own backyard. It works the same way. You can do it in your own backyard. You don't have to do it on the national level. You can do it in your own backyard. And I've kind of revised my strategy to do more of the backyard local events because, one, the lead time isn't as long. There's less red tape. I don't need as much money. I do events now. I'm in the Chicago area, so I'll do events in the suburbs. I'll go up to southern Wisconsin, which really isn't that far. And so I'll do, find little pockets of, cities around here where I'll do an event. And I might do, 2 or 3 a month. Instead of doing 1 or 2 big ones a year, I'll do 2 or 3 in different, suburbs and cities. That way when I go to a potential sponsor, I can get the local hometown bank. I can get the local hometown credit union. I can get the local luxury car dealership. I can get the local FedEx or UPS or the local Office Max or Sam's Club, Costco manager. It might be a small check. It might be a $3,000 check. But if you get 5 of them, now you got $15,000. And I can put on an event for less than $400. So I like that better than, okay, let me chase down who's the national sponsorship or marketing director for the Bank of America, who's Wells Fargo, American Express. You know the massive work involved in that. So I just brought it down to a local level. Then I got a team of people that I train in these different markets, so I don't have to, be the one that's always traveling and going and doing the events. I do kind of the CEO type stuff, get the sponsorships, do the media, and have someone else do the training actually there live in the flesh.
Right. Okay, man, that's something. So really, what you're really trying to do is really find out, what the folks in the media are covering, and then you want to appear in that media about your event or what it is you are trying to get exposure to.
Right, and it may not be a perfect fit. What I do is I usually go to, or someone on my team is, maybe once a week or so, we'll look and see if there's a fit or if there's a tie-in for the stories they're working on that month. Because it might not be. I don't want to give the impression that every time you go on there's going to be this perfect opportunity for you. There might not be. But the beauty is in the system. The beauty is in the fact that there are so many different outlets. There are so many different, media outlets and opportunities that if you did this once a week or a couple of times a month, you'll definitely find some, because you're not just going to stick with one media outlet. There are hundreds and thousands of them. So even if you pick the top 15, 20, national news networks, okay, within the 4-week time, you're going to find several opportunities where there's a fit for you. Now you have to get out of your comfort zone, because if you're not used to doing PR, if you're not used to approaching people for sponsorships, you won't do it. Your brain won't let you do it. Your subconscious will shut you down. So you have to, work on getting out of your comfort zone. That's why, and I teach, I got a 5-week class where I teach this stuff. We take it step by step, because if you've never called a bank, a local bank manager or a local Costco manager, and met with them and asked them for $1,500 or $3,000, you're not going to do it. You can say, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. That's what our conscious mind says. So what I do is we do it step by step. We do it piece by piece. We say, okay, first thing we're going to do is identify the top 5 potential sponsors that are perfect for you. Okay, that's your homework assignment. You don't even have to talk to anybody. Just, okay, where do people need to go? What do they need to do? That whole system. So then you say, okay, here's the top 5 people. Okay, places. Okay, now the next step is we find out who's the right person within that organization. There's nothing tough, nothing, you can look for it online. You can go to some of these websites I mentioned, or you can just call and say, hey, I was just wondering who's the marketing director over there. Oh, that's Amy Smith. Okay, bye, hang up. That's, because I definitely know how the subconscious mind works. So we have to retrain you to where you're comfortable with doing this. So by the end of week 5, not only are you comfortable with, finding out who's the right person, reaching out to them, but by the end of week 5, we've already contacted a dozen or so companies requesting sponsorships. And so it was taught to me. I learned this system. Brendan Burchard, to me, he's the #1 sponsorship trainer on the earth. He gets $8,000 for, it's either a 2-day or a 3-day event.
Yeah.
So I went to his event in 2008, didn't know anything about the world of sponsorships, doing everything the hard way, the expensive way. So I left the 3-day event and started, playing around with what I learned and tweaking it to fit me and my business and what I was trying to accomplish until, 5 years later, I figured out something that worked. The core I got from him. But I take 5 weeks, and we meet similar to this fashion here, and it's a small class. You have questions. If you guys are in different industries, we figure out who's the best people to contact for you. We develop your tag plan. I show you how to outsource it. I show you, if you just don't have time or just really don't want to make the calls, where you can find people for $5 or $10. They'll make the calls on your behalf, and they'll do some of that heavy work. So by the time you get involved, you already know someone that's interested, which is a lot, less burden on your part to talk to someone and not have to sell them. They already know about what you're trying to do. They've already been briefed on your ideas and your project. So now you just kind of come in and close the deal. So, and that wasn't really in my notes. I just threw that in because just as I was talking, Charles, I just know human nature, how there's a, I've been blessed in my life. I have some real top mentors. And this is what I learned from, one of my mentors was there's two types of training. There's event training and then there's process training. Event training is when you go to a seminar. Event training is this here where you sign up for a webinar or a teleseminar. And 99% of the people who listen to this, if you follow us 3 days from now, we're not doing anything with what we learned, let alone 2 weeks or 2 months from now. So the beauty of process training is you put yourself in the process of once a week you get trained. Even if they bought this from you, or I don't know if you sell it or you give it to them, and they listen to this once a week, once every few weeks, and then reference it again another month or 2 months from now. That's process training, because each time they hear it, they're going to pick up something different that I said, that you said, that they didn't get the first time. So since I understand that and understand human nature, that's why I do the 5-week thing, so that it's a process. And at the end of the 5 weeks, you basically know how to do it.
Right. No, that's cool. Hey, you have something here. Now it looks like you already talked about the proven way to find sponsors, but you have something here about how much you should ask for, and I know that's one of my questions too. How do you determine what you actually go to each individual sponsor to ask for?
Sure. I'll give you two different ideas about that. What I do if it's a local event, and remember I told you I was kind of just in 2013 started heading towards more of the smaller, local backyard type event versus the national. So what I do there is I look at, I'll get the local business journal or some of the, Chamber of Commerce newspapers or even the business magazines in the area. And then you just kind of make note, look at who's advertising, who's taking out the full page ad, who's taking out the, half page ads, maybe even a quarter page, because, they're spending money. They're spending tens of thousands or $1,000 a month just to have that ad in there. So that's giving you some indication of what their budget is by who keeps advertising. You can do the same thing on television. Just, in your local area, we all know, local businesses, where they have a lot of commercials running, or if you're listening to the radio, you want to make a mental note of that. Now that becomes market research for you. No longer are you just watching television or listening to the radio, as background, in the backdrop. That becomes market research to you when you hear particular companies advertising over and over and over again. So that kind of gives you some idea. And I'm in marketing, so in advertising, so like I mentioned earlier, I'll go to the website and click on the media kit or get their rate, their rates card, and every magazine will send you that or newspaper. They'll tell you, okay, well, it's $15,000 for a full page ad. It's $7,500 if you run 10 or more or whatever it is. So you can just you can do the math, and you don't have to be Columbo. You can just say, okay, if they're running, I've seen this ad in this magazine for the last 4 or 5 times. You kind of get an idea that they're spending some big bucks on that. So that's what I approach the sponsors with an idea of what to ask for. And then if it's on the national level, if they're in like a national magazine, that rate just goes up 10 times. So if you're talking about an Entrepreneur magazine or Forbes or an Ebony or Black Enterprise or Money magazine, Personal Finance, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, now you're talking $80,000 to $150,000 for full page. So they have the budget to do it. So that's kind of how I base on what should I ask for. And similar to real estate, I haven't heard anybody apply it to what I'm doing, but I've heard real estate experts say you don't make money when you sell a home. You make money when you buy the house. And their reason in saying that is if you can get a good deal when you buy it, then, that kind of determines, how much money you make when you sell it. So if you're buying it dirt cheap, that's better than if you overpay. Excuse me. So my whole point in applying that to sponsorships is you make money when you put your event on where it doesn't take you $5,000 to put on an event. See, if you're going to have all this extravagant stuff and all this expensive stuff and you need $5,000 or $10,000 to put on an event, that's where people get in trouble. I keep my events, the areas are nice, the hotels are nice, the people really are coming there, for the knowledge, what they're going to get. As you build, you can add other, benefits. But if you can keep it to where it's not costing you an arm and a leg, you can go to a sponsor and say, hey, I only need $3,500. And if they have a $50,000 a month marketing budget, it's easy to write you a check for $3,500. So that's kind of my mindset in doing that, is knowing what to ask for, and then knowing because they have a $50,000 budget, I'm not going to ask them for $50,000. That'll come after you've proven yourself and it works. Then you can say, hey, here's the next level of what I want to do with you guys, and then you can add more zeros to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now when last time you talked a little bit about, and I know this is what wasn't in your notes, but that you could theoretically approach, one of these companies that actually does media. Like you could theoretically approach a newspaper, or you could approach someplace that does the advertising about sponsoring, right? You could turn the whole thing on its head and either ask them for what space, or ask them for money, or how would you approach it?
Yeah, that's called an in-kind, INKIND, in-kind sponsorship, and that's when you approach a media outlet, and they may not give you dollars, hard dollars, but what they'll do is they'll give you some free space in their newspaper or their magazine, or they'll plug it on the radio or television. And if you think about it, most people, the reason you want the sponsorship dollars anyway is to go towards marketing, to let people know about the event, to get the exposure and increase ticket sales. So that's the primary reason why people need the money, is for the promotions. So if you can get the promotions and they're going to promote that to you for free, then if you think about it, you may not need $5,000 or $10,000, because all you're going to do with that is buy the advertising. So if you can get the advertising, now you don't actually need the money. So there's several ways you can do it. You can approach a media outlet just like a traditional or typical sponsor and ask for a check, and then they can say, well, we won't give you $2,000, but what we will do is we'll be an in-kind sponsor, and we'll give you $2,000 in free advertising, so you'll get a half-page ad or a full-page ad that they'll just give for free. So that's an in-kind sponsor. You can either ask for that directly, or you can kind of trickle your way down to it. But I like in-kind sponsorships, because I know if I get a check for $50,000 from a sponsor, I know there's so much of that is earmarked for marketing and promotions to get the butts in the seat. So if that can be eliminated, that to me that's just as good. That works too. So I'm glad you brought that up. Don't despise, you guys don't look down on if you can't get a check, they can't help you. Because if you approach a media outlet and they can reach 100,000 people or 1 million or 10 million, and they're going to give you that for free, take it.
Yeah, I know we're coming up on, gosh, we're coming up really fast on 4:30. I wanted to ask you about, first of all, here at the end, I want you to tell everybody where to get a class that you're talking about. But the one thing I really, so when you put on an event, you're really looking to have the whole thing paid for. If not, you want to be ahead of the game before you sell any tickets, or is that part of the formula, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, yeah. In the perfect world, like that's the idea of when I set it up. If I can draw up a perfect plan, is to have not only have everything paid for, but make it a profit center. If I can put on an event for let's just say it cost me $500 to put on the event, and if I can get $5,000 in sponsorship, once I pay my overhead or my expenses, that's a profit center for me. See, most people don't look at it like that. And so they typically focus on, whenever people put on events, they typically focus on ticket sales or registrations. Then after that, they look at, okay, how many people in the room can I sell my product to or get them to hire my service? So they're limited really to those one or two things. If I get a sponsorship that covers above and beyond my costs, I really don't need to have a lot in product sales. I mean, it'd be nice, and I'm still teaching and sharing and hope that they purchase, but I go in knowing I've already made $10,000 or $15,000 profit, whether anybody in there buys from me or not. It's a whole different level of, I want to say pressure, a whole lot less pressure, and a whole different level, of thinking and maneuvering than when you put on an event and then, you're looking at, okay, how many people here, how many dollars per head, and they got this formula, all these top speakers trying to figure out, and how many dollars per head versus the people in here and how much they spend and all this other stuff. I look in like, okay, well, it'd be nice if somebody bought, but I already know what I clear when it's over. So I'll make money off the sponsorships, the ticket sales, the product sales if they hire my service. If I'm going to have any, vendors where I'm renting booth space, or just there are a lot of different, ways you can mix and match it. But the seed I want to plant with this call is to open up everyone's mind to the possibilities and get the mindset. Kind of like one of my mentors said, it's like adding a couple of more zeros. So however you're thinking or whatever you're doing now, this call, thanks to Charles, should add a couple of more zeros to what you're trying to do, because it's information that's proven, it works. This isn't guesswork. I mean, you got to be persistent. That's just like in anything else. You got to follow up, but the process and the formula works.
No, that's awesome. Okay, now tell us where we can get the class, Robert.
Okay, the same email I gave you guys, championmediausa@gmail.com. I'll send you a sign-up form. I'll send you some more information about the class. And basically it's going to be, the teleseminar form or conference call type deal. You guys are going to get all of my scripts. You're going to get my sales letters. You're going to get my emails that I use. When I fax a company for the first time, you're going to get that. If I call and I get their voicemail, what do I say? You're going to get that. If they say, okay, well, you want $5,000, we don't have that, I'll show you how to get $10,000 worth of value, even if they never give you a check. And in some cases, that can be better than them giving you a check because you'll make a lot more money. So, but these are things that, and I don't know any books. I don't know of any books at all that teach sponsorship. So you just get it. This has worked for me. I still use it. So that's the most important thing. It's not something that I just teach to people and I, hop on a plane and fly somewhere else. I actually use this. I have seminars going on every weekend right now as we speak. So I use it. They're small, and I told you that, this works for me in my living situation with my family. And I like to be close and local. If I can do an event for 1 or 2 days on the weekend, know it's paid for, know it's, it's going to put some money in my pocket at the end of the day, and I can get back home that day. That's just the way I do it. You guys can take it and do it however big you want to do it. But the 5-week training class gives you that roadmap.
No, that's awesome. Okay, very good. Okay, so everybody, I will get the email out to you. And, well, Robert, as just like I said last year, this is just some awesome information. And I mean, I am definitely will be putting it to use, and hopefully everybody on the call will be too. Everybody says, see, thank you. Yeah, everybody says thank you. They appreciate the insight, and so whenever you're doing something, I want you to let me know so I can let everybody else know that they'll be able to get access to you there too.
Okay, no problem. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. This has been Robert Smith. He's from Champion Media, and again, you want to take that email at the very least, and you want to get the email that he's talking about, and then ask him about getting his course that he's doing, and so that if you're interested in moving on, you definitely want to do that. So everybody, this has been Charles Harper. Look forward to chatting with you all in the next call we'll be doing. Robert, as always, thank you, 10 times, man.
Oh, thank you. Anytime you need me, man, I'm here.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, everybody, have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.
Well, I certainly hope that you've enjoyed what you just heard. Now, our monthly content subscribers get access to trainings just like this and more. If you're not a member, head on over to gainmindshare.com/AEBC monthly. Again, head over to gainmindshare.com/AEBC monthly and get started in our monthly content program where you'll get access to this kind of training as well as consulting content to use in your business. Thanks. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.